Oh, it's very real. Thanks for having me on, as always. I mean, look, what we've got here is on April 10th, 2024, D.C., the District of Columbia held a training event titled, quote, Non-Citizen Voting Education Virtual Training, in which D.C. announced non-citizen voting would begin in 2024. They amended their code all the way back to 1955 to change qualified elector to include otherwise eligible non-citizen residents, including illegal aliens. And this is joining a chorus, by the way. They replaced San Francisco, Oakland, California, some cities in Maryland, Vermont, I think parts and boroughs in New York City. This is happening across the country, okay? Now, to be clear, under federal law, yes, technically only citizens can vote. But here's the problem. Federal law also prohibits states from being able to check citizenship. So that has been a barrier. So that has led to, for example, Arizona, who has two systems. Arizona passed a law saying they want to require citizenship. So for state elections, they do check citizenship. For federal elections, they do not because they're prohibited by federal law to do so. This is why I've introduced two bills. The first bill last year was a bill that would, take away funding to D.C. or make it contingent on not allowing non-citizens to vote. That's H.R. 486. That was, I think, 2 years ago. Senator Cruz has it in the Senate. Then I introduced last week, along with Speaker Mike Johnson, 50 of my colleagues, a growing list. Mike Lee in the Senate introduced it, H.R. 8281, the SAVE Act. And that bill is designed to make sure that there is a requirement of proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections in the United States. So we're not just going to make it possible, we're going to require it. Because under federal law, we can and we should do that.
Why is the Biden administration, why is Merrick Garland, why are they not all over helping you guys push this forward as quickly as possible?
Well, they're going to hide behind saying things cryptically like this is already against the law. It's already the law that you only have citizens voting. But what they're hiding is that states and jurisdictions who want illegals to vote are moving in that direction. These guys want that to occur. That is precisely what they've been doing by flooding our country with people who are from all over the world, from all 180 different countries. That's purposeful. It's not just, we want labor and isn't this nice for asylum? I was like, bull. This is to flood the zone with people to increase voters. And they'll say, well, they're already, denied that, and it's unlawful for them to vote. Well, they're going to back into that by knowing the system will be abused. We've got evidence clearly of people voting who are not citizens. And now we have cities who are trying to make it easier for them to vote. And they'll say, don't worry, we'll only do that in local elections. Not true. We know that's not true. And the federal government, the current attorney general, the current Department of Justice, the current president, they want that. So our job is to stand up against that. And by the way, if somebody has a problem with our bill and they say, well, it's already against the law, then what are you worried about? My argument back is, then what are you worried about? Well, it would be a burden if I get in the way of people's, it would be an undue burden on the right to vote. What, to show up and demonstrate your citizenship, to provide a passport or provide your birth certificate with a driver's license or some other mechanism by which you can prove it? That's insane. Of course, we should only have citizens vote. It is an 87% issue, Steve, even in this divided country with crazy people out there who will vote for Joe Biden. 87% of Americans think only citizens should vote. We should stand up and pass this.
One of the most powerful parts you've got of this is what went on in D.C. Just to take a second, explain to people what Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, was doing to make sure that illegal aliens could actually vote.
Sure. So Judicial Watch just put out records of the city of D.C. explaining literally to illegal aliens and non-citizens how they can vote, right? They did it. It was a specific event. It was on April 10th. It was about a month ago. And it was a training event. It was titled. It was like a formal thing. They're not hiding it. In 2023, the D.C. Council amended the D.C. election code to expand the definition of the term qualified electorate to include non-citizen residents, including illegal aliens. As I said, other places have been doing that. San Francisco, Oakland, other places, Maryland and Vermont. This is going to continue unless we do something about it, right? We saw the evidence that came out in South Carolina last week with the Department of Health and Human Services, because they're using under current law, if you go get, welfare, they put you in registration to vote under motor voter. Our bill would clean that up. But look, let's be very blunt. Like last week, we passed a bill that would require the census to check a citizenship. You'd have to check whether you're a citizen on the census. And then it would require that only citizens be counted in the apportionment of our members of Congress. Well, guess what? It passed on literally a party line vote. Not one Democrat, not one, voted for the proposition that we should count citizenship and that only citizens should be counted in apportionment. This is where the Democratic Party wants to go. So just know that and know what they're trying to do. They want this in this election, the election we're in. They want illegals to be able to vote, and they certainly want it going forward. So we're going to have to fight for that. We're looking ahead of the curve, Steve. Instead of trying to play catch up, we're looking ahead of the curve. While we have an 87% issue, we should lock into law. I don't want to hear any stuff about federalism. The Constitution is very clear. We have the power to handle federal elections for Congress, for the presidency. So we should pass a law saying you must be a citizen and you must prove it if you're going to vote in the elections that determine the future of our country.
Congressman Brewer, I've got one other thing to talk to you about Russ Vought came this morning, but I want everybody right now, what do you want this audience to do on this topic, on the SAVE bill? What should they do today?
They should be reaching out directly to your members of Congress, and you should say that they should be co-sponsoring the SAVE Act, demanding that it get to the floor immediately and that we take it up and pass it, and that we then force this on to Chuck Schumer, and we should campaign on it. We should make it one of the central issues of the campaign. My friend Stephen Miller's been working on this. You mentioned Russ Vought. A bunch of my friends like Cleta Mitchell, others that are election law experts, people like Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots, a whole bunch of other people who were standing at the microphone with us last week who are great Americans. Ken Cuccinelli, I'm going to forget people, but these are people who understand the law. So call your members of Congress, tell them to pass the SAVE Act, and that bill number is H.R. 8281. It is appropriate for the Congress to act. We should act. You believe that Americans, that we should have citizenship be proved if you're going to vote in elections, in federal elections in the United States.